And we're live.
All right. Well, we knew this day would come. We just didn't know when. But in recent memory, if you'll go back and check our second podcast, our second episode, what should the Philadelphia 76ers do with Ben Simmons? Well, Philadelphia 76ers did something with Ben Simmons.
That they did.
And I guess just to start it off, we'll kind of go over what the actual trade was. We'll get each other's first thoughts on it. And then we'll do kind of a current synopsis of the team and then future. Because obviously,
I like it.
What happened has implications, for the current and for the long term. So the trade was the Philadelphia 76ers will send Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round picks to the Brooklyn Nets for James Harden and Paul Millsap. So that's the trade. So, reports were going around the NBA for quite some time. Little buzz, small things, small rumblings. Nothing from camps really came out until obviously recent. And I heard something recently that is so true. The deadline just causes action. If there was no deadline, nothing would happen. Why doesn't this stuff happen, 2 weeks into the regular season or 3 weeks in when a team realizes it's not working? Like the deadline, that date causes action. And action took place. A lot of other things happened around the league, but since we're from the Philadelphia area, we should focus on this specific trade. So what are your initial thoughts to that?
Well, I just want to rewind real quick to our last episode that we talked about the Sixers. We literally said in there, if we trade him before the deadline, it better be for something good. And if they don't have any good options, they should wait until the offseason. So I think that this was exactly what we said. Like, best case scenario is you found someone good before the deadline and just got the deal done.
It was one of our 3 options. We had laid out Damian Lillard,
yeah,
Bradley Beal, and James Harden. Now,
just like
you
we
weren't,
said,
you weren't the biggest fan of that
No,
James Harden trade, so let's touch base on that.
Yeah, so when we did that other episode, I said I didn't like James Harden as a pick because you're basically trading one prima donna for another. And as much as he is a better prima donna, that type of attitude historically just doesn't win championships. They're going to be good for sure,
Yeah.
but it's hard to get over that hump when it's just like a disease. Like some dudes just have it.
So
like,
you still don't think they're over the playoff hump? Because James Harden, back to his Houston Rockets days, is notorious for blowing leads and getting injured. And there was that one series, I think it was Game 7. It might have been against Portland but they shot like 1 of 27 from 3. He was 0 for something and he shit the bed. So he is kind of notorious for not showing up in the playoffs. Not as much as Ben Simmons. But,
yeah, fair enough.
But so I get what you're saying from that perspective.
Now I have one caveat to this. I will give them credit.
Who's them?
Daryl
Morey,
yeah.
Yeah, and Elton Brand, but mainly Daryl Morey.
Yes.
Elton Brand, the GM.
Yes.
He's
so they are in a win right now, or he is in a win right now mindset. And I somewhat agree with the idea of, okay, some people say, if we get a year out of Harden, it'd be great. All we need is half a season.
Stop it. It better not be. I get what you're saying, but we better not have just traded Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and even though I don't really care about the 2 first-round draft picks, but for a half a season.
No. But listen, I'm not saying that we only need him or use him for a half a season. I'm saying he only needs to last. We're making a push now, right? Like Harden is like I have so many employees that are like this. They're fucking dope. They're star-studded, and then they just get comfortable and tired, and they start saying grass is greener, and they become shitheads. That's like Harden's track record, it seems.
Well, he has essentially bullied his way out of his last 2 franchises, 2 teams, and it's been in the past 2 years. He got so overweight that the Rockets had to trade him, and he was causing buzz and throwing balls at people in practice and saying, you're not on my level. So, yeah, the Rockets had to trade him. And now this with the Nets. So things you're saying are not incorrect. The only hope is that, and we've had this conversation, that in the NBA especially, in that sport the most, pure talent wins.
Yeah,
so once he gets in between those lines, it could be all different. Well, maybe he's motivated to play with Joel and be like, this is something different. I finally have a pick and roll guy. People are calling it the most dominant duo in the league now, which is, but it's.
I hate those comparisons because it's going to put so much pressure. And I think that the one way Harden does extremely well is for him to just kind of relax into the role. Like he's the type of guy that as soon as there's external bullshit, he always finds some way to fuck up. I feel like he gets distracted. You know what I mean? But if you have a smooth entry and there's no like, this is the biggest duo since Kobe and Shaq. Like it puts just a lot of pressure, and especially for him and Joel. Like Joel's gonna be tough. I think the problems that we're gonna see.
I don't think Joel cares about that pressure at all.
No. I'm saying that Joel is well equipped, and Joel won't tolerate bullshit, just like he didn't tolerate Ben Simmons. And if they start butting heads, then we got some problems. Which I think is Harden's problem is he can't like. Okay, when LeBron goes somewhere, his teammates actually like him as a person and as a leader. Like he's, you know what I mean? Like Harden goes there and you're just like, dude, like fuck this guy. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that he's like that to everybody, but he seems like he just does that to teams. You know what I mean? It's hard to win when you got people on your team that literally go, fuck this guy. I don't even want him to do well.
I'm excited because they have like 30 or so games to get equipped and, acquainted to each other. So I'm excited for that. But let me play devil's advocate to what you just said. Mm-hmm. And, I know you've heard those things and that's been your thought and theory, but let me throw this at you. He left Brooklyn because he was kind of pissed off at Kyrie for that situation. He wants to win, and Kyrie.
What was the situation again?
Kyrie can't play in half the games. Kyrie is unvaccinated. He can't play in New York. Can't play in the city.
Yep.
So Harden's pissed at that. KD's out for a significant amount of time with a knee injury. Mm-hmm. So it's literally James Harden out there and a couple of scrubs, kind of, on away games, and then he has Kyrie at home, and he's been getting pissed off at that. So to me, that says that James Harden really wants to win, and he's unhappy in Brooklyn because it seems like that team doesn't want to win.
Yeah, I mean, you've absolutely could be right. And I'm not saying that you aren't. The alternative to that, like I said, is that he just decided that he wasn't happy and he made a scene about it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I don't like. 'Cause it's like, okay, what happens if Joel starts popping off a little bit and then he starts getting pissed? Is he going to just do the same shit?
I'm scared about that. I'm scared that he could be a diva in that sense.
That's what I think. But like I said, if we can get half a season out of them before they start butting heads and they're like a dynamic duo, it's great. Like, so that's what I was getting to, is that I don't think half a season is enough time for them to butt heads. I think that's going to be the acclimation. That's when you're going to be the friendliest. That's when you're going to be the most forgiving about bullshit. I think they have the highest chance to win the championship this year with Harden, and then next year it's a crapshoot because they could butt heads week one. Right out getting off the postseason, they could butt heads when they're in a little bit of losing streak. Whatever the case is, I feel like the chance that they will butt heads is inevitable. Like, it's 150%. It's just a matter of how long.
Hopefully it's year 4.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be within 2 years. I think he's gone in 2 years, no doubt.
If he can get us a championship and a parade in Philly within that 2 years, that's fine.
And that's my point. Like, I get what Morey's doing. Like, he's trying to win now, and like, yeah, it might not have been the best trade, but it's the best trade for that mindset. Like, if that's your goal, is to win this year, that was the best thing you could have done.
Here's a little asterisk too. He opted into his player option, so he could have declined, become an unrestricted free agent, and then we would have had to have Morey and Harden have a very good relationship, and we'll get into Harden's other connections into the city, like Michael Rubin, the part owner, and he's big on social media. The owner, Fanatic, CEO. James Harden has a great relationship with Meek Mill, so he has actually a lot of ties to the Philly area. Mm-hmm. So he might be very excited to come here, but he opted into his player option, so he's not going to become an unrestricted free agent. Morey didn't need to do kind of like a backdoor handshake, like, hey, if I do this trade for you, you're staying next year, right? Like, you're signing a new contract. So they can have that conversation later down the road. It is 100% in Joel Embiid's and in James Harden's mind to win the championship this year. And I was saying this to you earlier on the phone before we hopped on this podcast, that I think Morey is strategically planning to win this right now and use his connections. And I think he's looking at it as the NBA is wide open. Similar to 2018 when the Philadelphia 76ers lost to the Raptors in that Kawhi heart-wrenching shot. The NBA was wide open. The Raptors won that year. Kawhi Leonard won them the championship. Joel Embiid is an MVP this year. He could do the same thing, but now they have James Harden. So Maury's looking at it as injuries. The Warriors aren't 100%. Lakers are falling apart. The Nets are doing their own struggles right now in the East. Celtics aren't what we thought they would be. The East is open. The Suns are very good. We're not even going to get into that, but the Suns are very good. But Morey is looking at it from a perspective of win now, 100%. And
yeah, like get the clearest path.
Yeah, and that's why I personally do not care about those 2 first-round picks at all. First of all, the first one is a 2022 pick, so it's this upcoming draft. It's going to be like the 24th overall pick. The Sixers are going to be one of the better teams in the overall NBA. They're going to have one of the better records, and that's how the lottery is picked out. So go ahead, have our 25th overall pick, and then it's our 2027 first round pick, which is whatever. It could be, we could be horrible then, and then it could be a top 3 pick for them, and then we'd be like kicking ourselves that we didn't have it at that time. But like I said, this is a win now move, so do that, whatever you have to do. The only thing, and my turn now to choose my ideas about this. The only thing that I don't like is the fact that we gave up Seth Curry.
Yeah, I agree. Now, the argument has been made that I've heard that essentially with this trade, you're swapping a shooter for a better offensive player who's not like if anything, he's
Harden's a great 3-point shooter.
Well, and he's a great offensive player in general, So I think it's a net positive in terms of that single position swap. Yeah, I would have loved to keep him. I would have rather get rid of Tobias, and I know he's playing out of his mind right now. But you get rid of Tobias, it's a big part of the payroll that's gone, and then you just, if you imagine having Harden on one wing and Seth on the other, Joel down low, like come on, like you spread the floor out so much. Like,
well, that's why I wanted to keep Seth, because I think, and it really matters in the playoffs, like 3-point shooting and defense. Mm-hmm. You're not having these 124 to 121 games. You're not. You're having 104 to 96.
Yeah.
108 to 105. Like, these are close NBA games where you need 3-point shooting in the clutch and defense and spacing, especially for Joel Embiid. You've seen Joel Embiid this year running up and down the court like a point guard. Those video comparisons of Kobe when he's doing those shimmy post moves. He is loving life without Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
And if you give, now I'm not saying James Harden is not a spacer, but my point is more spacing. If we were able to keep Seth Curry, that would have been huge for us. Now I'm very glad on the opposite end of that spectrum that Morey somehow pulled off that we kept Tyrese Maxey and Matisse Thybulle.
Yeah,
I don't know
incredible
how we kept those two. So I'm very happy from that perspective of Morey being like, all right, we need to keep some youth around. We need to keep, and Matisse's amazing defense, that's going to be very clutch in the playoffs. I just wish we were able to keep Seth a little bit. And I will say, I'll give credit to Andre Drummond, backup center. We now need that. We kind of need a backup center, and we still need a backup point guard in the buyout market.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, I guess their mindset is if Joel is MVP and arguably the best player on earth right now,
then with James Harden,
then you can get somebody who just won't fuck up royally as a backup. You know what I mean? Like when it's more just like you're just going in for a few minutes just so he can get a breather, and you're coming out. So.
Yeah. Well, when's the last time that Philly's been in this position with the buyout market before? It's always been, and I'll be curious to see because the buyout market will start soon now that the trade deadline is over. But it's always been in past years, if you'll remember, guys want to go to the Lakers. They want to go with LeBron. They want to go to the Bucks because they're the best team. These big market teams are getting these players, and it's always like Philly's never getting, we're getting the George Hills. We're not getting the really opt-out, the buyout market guys like the Goran Dragic. He's available. He would be, I don't know what the payment situation would be like if we could handle it, and that goes into the whole getting rid of Tobias Harris situation. Yep. That could really open up another option. But, I'll be curious to see what the Sixers do in the buyout market this season because they need a backup point guard. We needed a backup point guard before we even did this James Harden thing. We had Furkan Korkmaz bringing the ball up for us. Shake Milton, who knows when he's coming back. So we need a backup point guard. I know we're going to get a veteran guy. It's just going to be a matter of who it is. And now we need a backup center to find in the buyout market too, which is going to be necessary. Who's our next tallest guy?
I don't know.
Paul Reed or Paul Millsap, who we just got in.
What's he, a power forward?
Yeah, power forward. So he'll back up Tobias. But I want to ask you this. What do you think this trade for James Harden will do for Tobias Harris's game? What do you think it will unleash or draw back?
I mean, I don't know if you were saying it earlier, but he is not a number 2 star. He's a number 3 star. And I think that because it's very obvious when you watch him, he is just uncomfortable being the guy.
Yes.
He doesn't want to be the guy.
No.
He wants to be the guy that you kick it to once the guy gets double teamed. like he doesn't want that. So I think that it definitely is a great pairing. Takes pressure off of him, allows him to play more his game, which is I feel like he does a lot of backdoor type shit. A lot of things off ball, and he kind of
move quick.
And when he doesn't have to be the person who they're looking for, he can move a little more freely. Like Harden, obviously they're going to be getting the ball to him, so he's going to get lost in the mix in the backside.
Yeah.
So
I think Tobias can still hold his own with shooting, so he can still.
He's not a bad shooter, and like I said, as of late, I think he's shooting like 53% in the past 3 games
I don't know.
something.
He's been playing He knew the trade deadline was coming up. He's been traded. I think I read some crazy stat. Not only has he been traded like 4 of his like 7 seasons, it's been a lot. He's been traded at every deadline. Like 4 of his 4 trades have been mid-season. He hasn't even had a chance to regroup, get a new home, find time with his family. Like he has had to move, so he was playing his heart out these past couple games. And good for him, honestly.
I was gonna say,
I'm kind of glad. Like this is what Tobias Harris. When you saw him on the Clippers and why we got him to pair him with Jimmy Butler at that time and Joel and Ben. Like that was the team that was running in that 2018 season that was going for the chip. Like bringing back the Tobias,
we lost that.
Yeah, now and the reason why we didn't keep Jimmy is because of Ben Simmons, and now look what happened.
Yeah.
But Tobias from those Clippers days, if he can somehow channel that again and be that number 3, that's all we need him to be. If he can score anywhere around 20 points a game still, or 16 to 18. Joel's putting up almost 30 a game. James is going to do low 20s. He's going to put up 10 assists a game, hopefully double-doubles almost. You don't need to worry about James's defense. He doesn't care. You got Matisse to help him out with that, and Joel, who's both of them are all NBA on defense. Tobias just needs to worry about getting us rebounds because we are 30th or 29th in the NBA in rebounding, which is necessary in the playoffs. You cannot be giving teams second chance opportunities. So Tobias has to help out with rebounding and scoring. And that's really all he has to worry about. He doesn't have to worry about being the last shot of the game. He doesn't have to worry about when Joel is off
or
to be the guy.
The best player.
Right. So you're right. Defense, he just needs to stay in front of his man. So I think that this is really going to unleash Tobias Harris. I think he's going to love his life. I think he's so happy that he did not get traded.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm just a little upset that we don't have a backup center now. We need to address that. And Drummond I was very impressed with him this season. So, I'm looking at it from the other side of things. Brooklyn kind of made out very well in this. I'm not saying they made out like a bandit, but they got Ben Simmons, who, yes, we hate him, but he's almost a defensive player of the year. He is that good on defense, and he runs the floor, and he's a great facilitator. He does that, and they got Seth Curry, and they got Andre Drummond. They needed a big man. They need more size. They got that. Brooklyn got its pieces, and they kept Patty Mills, who we were trying to grab from them. Do you think this Sixers team, I'll ask you flat out right now, do you think this Sixers team beats the Brooklyn Nets in a 7-game playoff series? How they are, Kevin Durant healthy, Kyrie healthy, who we just gave them, and our team? Honestly, what do you think happens right now?
I think that if Harden and Embiid can get along, they are 100% winning.
How many games? Give me a number.
Honestly, I would say 4, 6.
6? I thought you were gonna say 5. I thought you were
No.
gonna say 4.
I was gonna like 4. I see like the final being like a 4-2 series.
Yeah, I'm upset that we had to give them a lot of pieces. I am, but let me put it this way. Let me paint this picture to the viewers as well. The team that the Sixers had before they just made this trade. With Ben Simmons not playing because he was not going to come back. Like a realistic team of what if we just kept the team how it was and maybe picked up someone in the buyout market, but Joel Embiid and his supporting cast, and we went up against the Nets, who would have still had James Harden. Is that team beating the Brooklyn Nets in a 7-game series?
I mean, probably not.
No, I don't think so. So my point is that this move had to be made. I don't love it. I don't love it. I wish we had Bradley Beal, or I wish we had, but I'm very happy with what we got because it's great for win now. And maybe I'm underestimating James Harden. Maybe he'll go back to his form that he had before he got overweight and stopped caring. And I'm gonna be so impressed.
I will say, I don't take James Harden as being someone who doesn't want to win. He mentality wise reminds me a lot of like AI to a degree. Like, he wants to win bad, but he wants to be the one to win. I know. Well, yes, because he balled. And also, I think that when your crowd is really appreciating you, the city's behind you, and you got good leadership in the back, the front office, you can bring the best out of somebody. Like AI would probably have been a nightmare somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Yes,
it happened to be Larry Bird, Larry Brown.
Yeah.
It was just a good
and
fit.
they still butted heads.
Yeah, but it was in a constructive way.
Yes, he pulled AI. Like, he got out of him what no other coach could have gotten.
Yeah,
out of him.
like, that's a huge deal.
But that's what I was saying earlier with the front office. Michael Rubin. Like, I think James Harden feels comfortable with this front office.
What I was also going to say is, when did Doc coach the best?
I mean, when he had star players.
He is somebody who can. He might not be
he's
the
good players
best
coach.
Well, I was going to say he might not be the best strategic coach, but he is invaluably good at personnel management. Like, he knows how to balance stars, and that is a skill in itself.
He's had some big names:
Yeah.
Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce,
all together.
Chris Paul. Blake Griffin,
big personalities.
DeAndre Jordan, JJ Redick on the Clippers. Yes, he's had big personalities.
So he knows how to handle that, and I think that, if anything, if this was the play the whole time, then good for fucking them, because I think that given this team...
I think Morey had this up his sleeve the whole time?
Maybe. I mean, Doc is the coach right now in the league to win off of pure talent, I think.
So you think it was a good hire in the first place? I wish he was a better play caller out of timeouts.
You know what's funny? I really was happy with the move when they picked him up initially.
Yeah.
And then he just seemed to do a lot of dumb shit.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times I'm like, dude, why are we fucking running this inbound play?
Why are we passing it to Joel at the 3-point line?
Yeah, like, it's just like a lot of weird decisions. Left. Like, I don't know what's going through his head. But regardless, what I will say is maybe whatever strategy he does have needs an all-star. You need more all-stars because the floor reacts differently.
It's a different team. I'm excited to see him play. I'm excited to see him. Also, you have to say this about James Harden. He doesn't want the Allen Iverson, Charles Barkley pin to his name, the great players that haven't won a championship. He wants that ring.
Well, that's I was going to say before. I don't take him as like someone who is a schlep. Like, he wants to win, which, if he's not a complete dumb fuck, he'll realize that this is probably his best and only chance, because he's had so many and has never got it. So, like, something's got to give. And I think eventually people, like I said, who aren't just purely stupid can realize that maybe I'm the problem. I have to change something. And if he can realize that, because his desire to win is that high, we got a good thing coming.
Yeah.
I don't know how likely that is to happen, but that's the goal, right? Like, that's what you hope for.
Yeah. So I know you're not a betting man, but the Sixers are. I think the last time, I don't know what the odds were. They probably updated, but they were plus 1,400. Let's call it plus 1,200 now to win the NBA championship. Would you put money on them to win it?
Fuck yeah.
10 to win 120?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I would put, honestly, an emotional bet. I'd put 100 down. That would be so dope.
To win 1,200?
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
But realistically, I'd probably only put $10 because I'm not losing 100.
Yeah. But I might take a look at it. But so we had that conversation about the current team and everything. Now let's take just a couple minutes to just look towards the future. Good or bad. I just need to say this. I was listening to ESPN earlier, and one of the guys is a kind of front office guy. So he's a specialist in contracts and salary cap and all that stuff. So he pretty much said flat out that the Sixers need to win now, because within 4 years, if he hopefully re-signs with us, when that contract comes a year 3 and 4, James Harden is going to be making $64 million per year at age 38. He's 33 right now, and he's coming off. We didn't mention this yet, but he's coming off hamstring injuries the past 2 seasons, so he's not the healthiest. People have talked about him being out of shape, like not really lifting weights or carrying that much, and he's kind of becoming notorious for injuries. So God forbid he tears an ACL or something long-term happens to his Sixers years where it's shot, but you have to take that into account. I mean, and you also have to think about the money that this team. Think about what the Houston Rockets are dealing with John Wall, and what the Lakers are currently dealing with Russell Westbrook. They made a huge mistake, and they know it now, and they tried to get rid of him, and they weren't able to because of the contract that Russell Westbrook has. He's going to be getting $40+ million next year. For what? They don't even play him in crunch time. He can't make a shot. So my point is, I love the move for right now, but I'm nervous. My fandom for the Sixers is not just for a year or two. I'm not on the hype train. I'm a Sixers term long fan. I'm forever. So I obviously have that thought in my head like, oh, geez, when we get to 2026 or, around those years, this might be a rough team again. Or we might be in a tough situation where we're trying to lay off James Harden's $60+ million contract remaining.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong, but at the same time, sometimes you just got to risk it for the biscuit. In 10 years, who gives a fuck if we don't win anything for the next 8 years? Why are you thinking about, let's win one? It's like the Eagles, dude. We got a chance this year. Let's go.
We sold our soul for that Super Bowl.
Yeah, we did.
But I don't know if we sold it for just football or for all sports.
Yeah, I don't know.
So we'll see.
We did not. I don't know.
But that was a crazy year, But you're right, because Howie did kind of push all the chips in and got these veterans.
You have to commit sometimes.
We got veterans, and that's what wins you championships.
Yeah, and again,
Vets.
Could you regret the decision? Sure.
You have to make it though.
But yeah, that's biased, because of course, if it's not going to work out, you would have wished you didn't do it. But I think in terms of an odds, you're more likely to win now than ever. But if it's going to happen, this seems to be the time. Joel's getting older. He's in
his prime right now.
He's in his prime, and he's also getting to the point where he will be so injury prone, because he already is, and he hasn't had any bad injuries as of late.
He's been better.
Which unfortunately, he's bound to get one. You know what I mean?
But what if he's actually taking better care of his body? He's taking his nutrition into account.
I think that he is absolutely doing all that. But the problem is, humans were not designed to be that big, and regardless of how well you take care of yourself, things are just more fragile when you're that big. I mean, the only person to defy that was Shaq. He's an anomaly because he's 300+. And
I get what you're saying. Veterans, at the end of the day, LeBron knows it best. Veterans win you, not in just basketball. You have to get veterans in every sport. You need people who have experience, playoff experience, knowledge, an understanding, camaraderie. You have to have those things, and you're 100% right. But this is where the fan mindset is different from the GM and what Morey and them have to think. This is why he held on to Maxey and Thibault, because you can't just push all the chips to the table.
You're right.
So Morey had to hold on to a couple draft picks and these players, and because he understands that a couple years from now, this is going to be a different landscape.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But if you win, it changes everything.
Right. And that's, comparing it back to the Eagles, there's kind of a little bit of leeway because they were able to win. And it's an understanding, all right, let's retool, let's regroup, let's rebuild. So the Sixers are eventually going to be in that situation. I'm not saying we're going to have a whole trust the process 8-year span again from where they were barely winning 10 games, but there's going to be a retool at some point. But this move needed to be made.
Yeah, it's like anything. It's a business, so it's cyclical. Sometimes you make good investments, sometimes you make bad investments, but as long as the net is positive, you're always on that upward, path. Yeah. And when they tank to trust the process, that was about as low as you can get. And I don't think they'll go lower than that for a while.
Well, that's what's crazy about teams like the Patriots. How do they keep on top for 30 years almost?
Yeah, I mean, it's just...
Because you're right. Most all franchises, there's ebbs and flows. And that's what makes a good franchise is retooling and understanding when you need to kind of give in and sell more assets to obtain later assets, later down the road. Yeah. So that's that understanding. But from a fan's perspective... I'm very excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see him play. I'm excited to see him wear that number 1 jersey. I'm excited to see the pick and roll action with Joel Embiid. They're going to be more motivated than ever. Tobias Harris is going to be more motivated than ever. Doc Rivers, who doesn't have a ring, who is notorious for blowing 3-1 leads in the playoff, is on fire, and he wants a ring, and he is excited. So this is a good time to be a Philadelphia 76ers fan.
I think I'd agree with that.
Yeah. So
cool.
Great conversation.
Awesome. Until next time.